Groundhogg is a WordPress-based CRM. It started up in 2018, and I became a customer in July of 2020. I used it for basically until March of 2021 when it stopped working after a software update. This is a company that prides itself on winning an award for its customer service, but I got to tell you, my experience is different than what you're going to see on most reviews. So if you're interested in Groundhogg, don't buy it until you watch this video. Hi, my name is William Beam. I am a small business person just like you. And like many small businesses, I need an email service. I need customer relationship management. And based on an offer through Buddy Boss, I bought Groundhogg. It was an interesting looking product. It seemed to have the ability to do some work for me and save me some money from software as a service companies like ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, and so on. So I bought in and I used it. It wasn't the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but it was functional and I intended to keep using it. But it finally had a problem. There was a software update and my cron service stopped working. Now the service itself I was using, which is the one that Groundhogg recommended, was active, it was working, but they denied that it was actually communicating, even though we could see success. And even though I had other services using that same cron job on different sites that were functional, we could see the success going on from the cron job, but they said that my host was blocking it. They'd never, ever looked at their software update to see if maybe that was the problem. It's funny, when something stops working after a software update, that's usually the first place I look. Ultimately, I had to switch to a different WordPress CRM, and I've done a lot of videos here. I'm not going to be mentioning a lot of other products. I'm not trying to sell you on something. I'm trying to give you a warning about problems I see with Groundhogg. And not so much problems with the software, but with the management of Groundhogg and problems coming behind that. The reason I wanted to do this video is from an email I recently received. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the screen, and I'll show you some of the things that give me concern about Groundhogg management, specifically the CEO, Adrian Tobey, and why I don't think they're ready for prime time, and why you may not want to trust your business to people who have certain behavior, which I'll show in the video. Okay, so this is an email I received recently. You can see it's dated July 8th, 2021. It says my subscription for Pro yearly will expire on July 15th, and I can renew. I was curious about that because last year in 2020, they offered a Black Friday special, and that was an extension for 3 years. I bought it because I still anticipated that I would continue to use this service for many years to come. Now I see that my license is expiring. So I wrote to them asking, well, what's expiring? Why is my license? I've paid for 4 years of Groundhogg and it stopped working after less than a year. And now my license is expiring. I'd previously requested a prorated refund, which was denied. They explained their policy was you have 14 days from purchase to get a refund. There are no refunds after that. And I thought that was kind of an odd policy. I understand it in general is like, you like the software or you don't like the software, that's a 14-day period. You've got time to find out. But when the software stops working and the customer cannot use the software, then I think a prorated refund is appropriate. But they did not. So I am a customer of Groundhogg for quite some time to come. And except for when I get a license or when I get an email like this that tells me, no, your license is expiring. So I thought, let me find out what's going on. I decided to go into a demo site that I use and load Groundhogg. I wanted to go back and do some look at it. And what do I see? Your license key has been disabled, invalid. This is before we even get to the point where the July 15th date has come up. I'm recording this on July 10th. And already I see that I've been disabled. Not only have I been disabled, I've been completely shut out. If I go to the Groundhogg website, you can see here is my affiliate. It's not active. If I come to the support group over here and click on that, it leads to a Facebook page. I'm no longer a member. I used to be a participating member of this group. I've been booted out of that. They've also blocked me on Twitter, both for the Groundhogg and for Adrian Tobey's personal account. I'm blocked. So when you come over here, you can see this is my Twitter account. If I try to go see what Adrian Tobey is talking about, I'm blocked. No communication about this, by the way. Same thing if I try to go to the Groundhogg official site. So I'm over here on the Groundhogg site, Groundhogg WP, you're blocked. This is in direct violation of their own published code of conduct. I have never been rude. I have never been disrespectful, but I have stated publicly that I didn't think Groundhogg would work for me anymore. I engaged with their customer service over a critical time for one of my businesses when there was an affiliate offer going on, and I could not communicate with my audience because their system simply did not work. So if there is a problem, they have a section here for consequences. Those found to be engaging in unacceptable behavior will be asked to stop immediately and are expected to comply. I was never asked to stop anything. I was never notified that I did anything that was against their code of conduct. What it really comes down to is Adrian Tobey wishing to manage his reputation. So let me show you a couple of things. This is from Adrian Tobey's Twitter account, and he seems to be complaining and whining in public that he cannot handle some public criticism. He's asking for suggestions. This is the CEO of a company asking, how do I handle 3 people who disagree with me? I presume I'm one of those 3 people. You can see my reaction is down here. There were no personal attacks. There were business problems. And Groundhogg is Adrian's brainchild, so therefore I think he's very protective of it. And he considers any criticism of Groundhogg to be a personal criticism of himself. But more than that, I'm not the only person. As you mentioned, there were 3 people. He has retroactive policy. So he'll tell somebody, and I don't want to mention his name, but he told somebody that what he posted on the Facebook group was outside of the boundaries of their policy. So I got curious. I made a screenshot of the policy while I was in the group, and they added this item here, number 10, unsanctioned promotion of products is not allowed. Basically, they don't want you promoting any third-party products. Well, that rule wasn't there before, and it was added after Adrian criticized the person who wrote something. And the person who spoke up in the group was trying to help another member, and he did not mention by name a service that would help configure SMTP. He got slapped down for that. So for trying to help one of his fellow customers, he got knocked. And basically, Adrian is coming over and just giving a lot of redirection, miscommunication. There was going to be a user interface change. Their current builder for doing automations and funnels is kind of a linear block mode. So let me give you a screenshot of what that looks like. This is the current interface. And you can see that it doesn't really go in a flowchart kind of style. This is the funnel builder, and quite honestly, I find it very confusing. There was a commitment that they were going to come up with a different interface. He had actually shown in October of 2020 what that was going to look like. And you can see here, October 20th, 2020, feeling excited, and he shares this screenshot. And it looks like this is a benchmark. This is a benchmark whether someone has either filled out a form or applied a tag that would lead down to this chain of events. And then there would be conditionals where you could go in one direction or another. Well, they decided not to do that. And he said that the reason they decided not to do that was based upon customer feedback. I heard a different story from someone inside of his organization. It wasn't based on customer feedback. The customers actually preferred that. What had happened was he hired a user interface expert who convinced him to stay with the block mode that I showed you on the other page. So he kind of didn't tell the truth as far as the reason for not embracing this change. And that is something I find disingenuous and untrustworthy. So let's skip forward a little bit. He's been teasing Groundhogg 3.0 since at least that October 20th date of 2020. Unfortunately, he's not getting there. And he put up a blog post getting excited for Groundhogg 3. You can see the progress is not quite there. And there's some nice description about what is the intent behind Groundhogg 3. They want to improve the funnel editor, which he's already stated that they're not really going to do it, as far as it's still going to be a linear mode. But I want to scroll down a little further and show you 3.0 is not so straightforward as they originally imagined. It's difficult to release a product with breaking changes that would cause many of their 40-plus extensions to no longer work. This is something that you think you would know before you embark upon a new revision of your software, is that it has to be compatible. So this should not be a surprise to anybody. So when is 3.0 going to come out? Well, it was promised to come out at the beginning of 2021. Then it was pushed back to end of the first quarter. Then it was pushed back to June 30th of 2021. And one of the complaints people had, myself included, was that there was no transparency on the date that we were supposed to receive the 3.0 version. He had a YouTube Live and then announced that it wasn't going to happen. And that's when he gave us the June date. And I thought they had to have known that they weren't going to make that date. Customers are business people. They need to make decisions based upon what's happening with the future of the software that they're using. He withheld that information. So now he's got this blog post out. And the last paragraph, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know exactly when it will be ready. My hope is Q3 of this year, but it could still take a while. In other words, they've boxed themselves in. They don't know how to develop what they've planned. They don't know when it's going to be available. They cannot really tell the customers when it's going to be ready. And quite honestly, the reason I'm doing this video is to warn other small business people that Groundhogg is an unreliable product because of its management. I think if they hired a new CEO, someone with experience and a bit more maturity, that they may be able to come up with a unique and interesting product. I used it, like I said, from July 2020 until about March when it failed on me. Their customer service was unable and took quite a long time to try and get anything to work. And ultimately, I had to switch to another product. I didn't want to switch to another product. I'm kind of glad that I did in hindsight, because that team is much friendlier and has much better customer service than Groundhogg does. I don't know what the Stevie Award is that they really appreciate about highlighting that they've won the Stevie Award for customer service. But I got to tell you, I did not see any of that courtesy. I was asked to delete a post that I put on the Groundhogg Facebook page. It wasn't rude. It wasn't critical. It was simply explaining that I had some frustration with a product. I think I'm going to have to move to something else. And I was asked to delete that as a condition of getting customer support to make my software work. After that didn't work, I made another post. And that is where I got this. So I migrated to another product. I shared some of my thoughts on the Groundhogg group page. And here it is from Adrian Tobey. William, I removed your most recent post from the group. Your post was going to spark another comment war, and that's just not something we're going to tolerate anymore. I had no intention of sparking a comment war. I was sharing thoughts and opinions and trying to be helpful, which is one of the things that they have in the rules. Be helpful. I'm sorry we've been able to find a resolution for your most recent issues. Jesse, which is his customer support manager, spent literal hours. He looked into it himself, and we're finding issues with the CDN surrounding your site. I was on WPX hosting. They have their own CDN. I disabled the CDN. I turned off all of their caching, all of the CDN, and I still had the same problem. So it was not the CDN. It was not the web host blocking the external cron job. And basically, they wanted to blame everything and everyone other than look at what happened with the software update they pushed out. I asked directly to Jesse, I said, they wanted me to move me to another hosting platform, which, as you can imagine, is pretty significant. And I'd already paid for a year in advance of my current hosting platform. So they want to move me over, and I declined that. And I asked, are you saying that your product does not work with WPX hosting? And the response was, no, I'm not saying that. But yet they had no answer. They blame the host, but they won't claim that their software does not work with the host. I don't know what else really to say. They think that disabling the cache and cron is not working option. This is one of the cron job things. They said it's not the first time we've heard of a host blocking request. SiteGround blocks it as well. We offered a self-hosted solution. There is some responsibility on the part of the customer. I got to tell you, my responsibility is to work with them, which I did. I did not want to have to change. It is a major pain to switch your CRM from one service to another. All your automations, all your contacts have to be migrated. You've got to rebuild your tagging system. And this is just something that I didn't want to do, but ultimately I had to. But the part that really got me is, as a business, we have to manage our reputation, and your post would have invited a wave of negative energy, as did your last one, the one that they asked me to delete. There was no wave of negative energy from my last post, but he has had problems with other customers, and he has gone through there and deleted them or changed some users so that their posts have to be approved before they show up in the group. This really is not customer service. This is an immature young man who does not know how to deal with problems, who does not understand customer service. And quite honestly, I don't have time for this kind of behavior to run my business. I hoped that I could have stayed with Groundhogg. I think there is potential for Groundhogg to grow, but not under Adrian Tobey's leadership. He may be a great coder, but he's no leader. And if you're going to be looking for a CRM for your business, you need to know that customer service is going to be there when you need it, rather than blaming or accusing every service or plugin or host that you have is the object. You need to know that they can develop on time, that they can make commitments, stick to them, and provide them when they say they're going to. This man knew that he had more than 40 plugins and integrations with other services, and now he's worried that he doesn't know how to make them work. He doesn't know when they're going to come out. This is not a reliable service. It may work if you just use a basic plugin and nothing else, but that's not the way business works. Business works with customer service. Business works with integrations. And business works with reliability. You're not going to find reliability or good customer service in my experience. I don't like to do a negative review of something. I'm not trying to make any sale here. I'm not trying to tell you, yes, you should go look at a specific product. I'm not going to give you any coupon codes here. I'm going to tell you, stay away from Groundhogg CRM. This is a service that ultimately, I believe, you will regret. There is one other thing that I would like to show you, and this was a chart sent to me from someone who's in the WordPress industry and is tracking installations of Groundhogg CRM. So you can see from October 2020, and this is going through May 30th, there is a very sudden decline here. People are abandoning Groundhogg. This is not a growing business, and you can kind of see that reflected on the Groundhogg Twitter account. We're a small business. We're struggling. I thought, well, you know what? A lot of small businesses are struggling. And I can see why you're struggling. Their downward trend over here is really moving down. But their growth dropped, 7.6%. I mean, this is just a plunge. They're simply losing business. Do you want to invest in someone who can't support his customers and people are abandoning? The way Groundhogg started was with a $100,000 loan that Adrian received from his parents. His father had an agency business, and once Groundhogg was up and running, his father, from an interview base that I read, said that he immediately switched all of his clients from Infusionsoft, I believe, over to Groundhogg. Can you imagine being one of those clients? You've got something that works, and you're going over to something that's brand new, that's not finished. I mean, Adrian's own interviews say that he just wanted to get a minimum viable product, and then they would grow from there. So in other words, they took a big step backwards to buy into this little project. And it's not really working that well, is it? There are other solutions out there. Whether you use a software as a service or a WordPress-based CRM, I would strongly recommend avoiding Groundhogg CRM. Hey, thanks for your time and attention today. This wasn't really a fun thing for me. I still have to go back and dispute the fact that my license has been disabled and I've paid for a service for years. I'm getting nothing. Groundhogg will not respond to my emails. I have not been unreasonable. So I'm going to have to try and find other legal means to deal with that issue. I don't want you to suffer the same thing. So if this has helped you at all, I hate to use the word like, but please give this a like if this is something that you understand and appreciate. It helps the channel grow, and that will help share this message with other people who may be considering Groundhogg that need to know what they're getting into, because a lot of the reviews out there are just simply glowing from people who've tested it for a little while and never used it. I was a customer. I still am a customer. I know what it's like using this product. I know what it's like dealing with the company behind it. and I would not wish that on anyone else. So please give this a like and help YouTube spread the word. Subscribe to the channel. I promise I will have much happier things to share in the future, and click the little bell notification icon so that way you'll be notified when the next video comes out. I'll see you in the next video.